MPH Sports Podcast. Talk sport and property with sports people discussing their careers and how property played a part in it.
Olly Lancashire, welcome to Talk Sport and Property. Good to see you again, mate. How are you?
Well, good, Lee. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it, mate. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to just start this pod by congratulating you on your new role at Southampton Football Club. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's good. Obviously it's quite a new role for me and a new role for the football club in general. So I've been down there sort of 2 months now, playing for the B team / coaching / mentor. So yeah, I'm here to help both the players and also the coaches as well. And so far so good.
So there's still minutes in that body of yours yet, mate, is there?
That's it. Yeah. So I'm still training every day, still playing matches. So it's nice to still get that buzz of a match day.
Nice. Well, mate, honestly, when I saw you post it on LinkedIn, I was like, well, listen, this is I always thought that sort of role would be ideal for you. B team football seems to be very popular at the moment. Why is that?
I think obviously the 23 has been getting a lot of sort of press in the last few years. Obviously there's quite a big gap between the 23s and first team football. So down here we call ourselves the B team, and we basically mirror exactly what the first team do. So whether that's tactics, training, we literally have to do whatever they do, mainly to prepare the lads for the jump up. And obviously the main aim is to get as many players from our team to play for Southampton's first team. With
looking at your career, the amount of appearances that you've had, and I guess a lot of the, and we're going to go through a lot of your career. I mean, I know you listen to the pod. We'll talk about your career and we'll talk about how property played a part in that. But because of the amount of sort of the clubs you played for and who you played for and where in the country, I think you're a fantastic role model for the boys around you, mate. I wish you every success in your new job. So, are you ready? Should we crack on?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Olly, 32 years of age, born in Basingstoke, literally up the road. An impressive 340 career appearances, 8 goals. I want to take you back as a young lad. Where was grassroots football for you, mate? And when did you explore your academy journey?
Yeah, so I would have started playing football at sort of 4 or 5 years old. I've got a brother who's 2 years above me. I think I remember sort of playing with him and his team to begin with. And then sort of started playing properly at sort of 6 years old for a couple of years before getting scouted by Crystal Palace when I was 8. And then I think it was in 1998 when the system changed, which meant that we had to leave our sort of Sunday league team. And then so from then I was probably 9. And I started playing properly for Palace. And I ended up being there for eight years till I was 16.
Right. I've got a lad at QPR who's been there at the age of 8 as well, similar to yourself. They do pick them up young, don't they? I'm not too sure what sort of age. I know when Jamie was approached by I think it was Chelsea and nicked him at sort of 5 or 6, and he had to start 2 weeks down at Cobham and he loved it. But then he got a certificate just to confirm, thank you for coming, but we're not going to progress further. Then sort of Watford for about a year, but they do pick them up so young. Did you find that Palace was one of many different clubs that were maybe approaching your parents or approaching your coach about Olly's potential and ambition at such a ridiculously young age?
Yeah, I think then it was a little bit different. I think obviously when I was sort of 7, 8, 9, I didn't really understand really the whole scheme of things. I just remember doing well for my Sunday league team, scoring loads of goals. Definitely changed now, but back then
I was going to say you got this right.
Yeah. Back then I was a striker, and I remember my dad pulled me after one tournament and said, Crystal Palace want us to go down and train. So that's how it started. And as soon as I went there on trial, I absolutely loved it, to be honest. So
but after Crystal Palace, you joined your current employer, Southampton, and went on to captain the under-18s and signed professionally in 2006. I mean, that must have been a dream come true, local club, close to home. I mean, I guess you felt the same way, and your parents and your family must have been obviously buzzing and extremely proud.
Yeah, it was kind of a strange one, really, because I'd been at Palace for that sort of long time, and I sort of, when you're at that age, I sort of turned into a Palace fan. And then I actually got released from Crystal Palace. So it was quite a shock to the system. I think I got released sort of around March time, so about 2 months left of the season to basically find a new club. I got released on the Sunday, and then on the Monday I was at Fulham training. And I think on the Tuesday I was down here at Southampton, and then I went up to Leicester for a week. So yeah, in the space of sort of 4 or 5 weeks, I've gone from being released to being offered a scholarship here, and then a scholarship with a 2-year pro at Leicester. So that was sort of my first big decision to make at 16 years old, whether to come down here or to go up to Leicester.
Wow.
And at that time, Southampton was a really strong youth team, loads of good players, got to the final of the Youth Cup, and I decided to sort of risk it and come down here. And yeah, it was definitely a decision that worked out right in the end.
So looking back, as a Saints player, young pro, can you name some of the players that would have been at the club at the time that you were there? Yeah,
so we had very, very fortunate. We had a really strong youth team. So the same year as me was Gareth Bell, Theo Walcott. Year above me, Adam Lallana, David McGoldrick, Nathan Dyer, Lloyd James. So yeah, we had about probably 8 or 9 of us went on to have professional careers, and then 4 or 5 of them went on to have really, really good careers. So yeah, looking back, our youth team was an absolute joke. We won the Premier League and stuff like that, and yeah, it was a really enjoyable couple of years. And to make it even better, we all lived in the same house, so there's about 18 of us in one house, and yeah, it was absolutely carnage. But looking back, it was some of the best years of my life.
I suppose I can't really ask you them sort of questions that we can share.
Probably best not to.
2 years later, Ollie, you made your debut against QPR. Again, nice local club to us. This absolutely cracked me up. So 29 minutes into your debut, you get sent off.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, what you need to explain this to me, because I love a debut conversation, as everyone knows. But firstly, be honest, was it a straight red?
I still think it was harsh. I still think it's probably a yellow. Yeah, and didn't make it better. It was live on Sky, Sunday afternoon. So I went at QPR, and yeah, 28 minutes. I went in for a big tackle and slightly mistimed it, and next thing you know, I'm getting sent off. And,
that's brilliant. Who was the player?
Damien Delaney, the left back. He had a big touch, so I thought I could win it. And yeah,
and half.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So it wasn't an ideal start to my professional career. Definitely not.
I'd like to know, how old were you then?
19.
19, okay. Talk me through what a 19-year-old is thinking, playing for Southampton away at QPR. I mean, like, did your family come down? Were you having like sort of pre-match nerves? What was the routine? I assume it's completely different setup as it was with the 23s and the academy setup.
Yeah, looking back, I was just completely fearless. We had some really good young players that have made that step up already. Obviously, they're all really good friends of mine, so it just felt like a natural progression.
Yeah.
But obviously, maybe a little bit too fearless, and obviously the big tackle came in. But fortunately, looking back, there was no sort of social media, there was no Twitter, there was no real coverage. Obviously, it was on Sky Sports, but I didn't really have anything to look at to sort of dwell on it, and all the management staff were great, senior pros were great. So yeah.
I was going to say that actually, because I suppose who was your manager at the time?
We had a Dutch guy called Jan Portfleet. He was there for maybe 6 or 7 months. So not one to remember really.
No, but I guess what he's done is put a little bit of trust and faith in sort of a young, promising 19-year-old lad who appears to be as cool as a cucumber, has gone out, and all right, he's made a strong tackle, maybe a mistake, maybe not. And I guess he's accountable for that decision. So the best thing to do is put his arm around and say, it's okay. Who was the skipper?
The skipper would have been Kelvin Davis, who's obviously still at the football club now, and someone that I'm still very close to. So yeah, to have him there, it was great, and he looked after me. Looked after me a lot, as we'll probably talk about later on. But yeah, like I said, we had some really good senior pros there that were really good with us.
So naturally, after a sending off, you have your 2-game suspension. Came back in the side again. You've got that trust and faith from the club. You come back, you keep 2 consecutive clean sheets. Fantastic. You then get sent off again. Now I feel like I'm like interviewing Vinnie Jones here, mate. So what's going on?
The second one was a little bit different. Like I said, obviously I had 3-game suspension. Came back in, and I think we beat we beat Doncaster and then Watford maybe, and then we had Sheffield United away on a Tuesday night. Bramall Lane was absolutely bouncing. I was absolutely buzzing again. And then it was 0-0 with about literally 2 minutes to go. I think it was James Beattie or one of their strikers broke through, and I've literally took one for the team, if you like. I had to put him down last man, and yeah, off I went. Obviously, it wasn't ideal again, but that change room, they were buzzing. Obviously, we drew 0-0, and they were saying that they're probably just saying it just to make me feel better, but they were like, "Well done, you had to do it," sort of thing.
Yeah.
But again, to get 2 red cards in my first sort of 5 games, it definitely wasn't the ideal start that I had.
Had you experienced bookings or sending off sort of coming through your academy? Because I was going to ask you, maybe this isn't the case, but did you have like a discipline issue as a young, enthusiastic player?
Nah, probably the absolute opposite.
Really?
I'm a pretty chilled out guy, and I used to play chilled out. So as a centre half, I was more the guy to sort of try and do Cruyff turns and not really get involved in the sort of big tackles. Yeah, it's probably just because I was so excited. I reckon I'm not too sure.
I think passion comes through, and as you said, you're taking one for the team as well. If you're a passionate player, but it sounds like from your point of view, obviously you've got a composed centre back, and it a bit of inexperience maybe on the first one, and as you say, you've learned from it and done what you've had to do for the next one. It's quite funny though, isn't it? I want to look at some of the experience you had as an early pro, Ollie. You had 2 loan moves to Grimsby during your term at Southampton. Did you find that those sort of moves away kind of helped your development as a young professional? Yeah,
so at that time I was sort of 20, 21. Southampton just been bought by Marcus Lieber, who wanted to take the club back to the Premier League. And Alan Pardew was a manager who brought in the likes of Jose Fonts, Ray Jaidi, really experienced centre-halves. And it was clear that a lot of us were going to be moving on come the end of that season. And Pardew said to me, listen, go out and experience real League Two strikers. And this was 15 years ago, so the League Two strikers then were big lads and very, very physical. And yeah, Grimsby wasn't the greatest team. I don't think they won in like 18 games when I went there. Pretty clear to see why. But as obviously the centre half, there's a lot of defending to do. Yeah, and looking back, that definitely put me in the sort of spotlight. So different clubs could see me, and that helped me that summer with the sort of options that I had once leaving Southampton.
Yeah, you had 13 appearances at Saints. You then signed for Walsall in July 2010 on a 2-year deal. You went on to make 49 appearances, scoring the 1 goal. Was Walsall the club that you wanted that move with, or did you have some other options?
Yeah, so I had maybe about 3 or 4 options that summer. 2 were in League Two and 2 were in League One. Southampton were actually in League One as well. So I turned down better financial deals in League Two to go to Walsall, because at that time maybe I was naive and still had big dreams, but I still felt I could do well in that league. And yeah, so it almost felt like a sort of sideways step, not really a backwards step. So yeah, to play in League One at sort of 21 years old, it was still a good thing. And there were some really good teams in League One at that time, obviously Southampton, Brighton, both Sheffield teams. So yeah, that was really good, and really loved my time at Walsall.
June 2012, you moved to League Two side, Aldershot, also 2-year deal. It seemed like you were hit with a bit of injury, restricting your playing time, like 12 games before the club experiencing administration. Was that a tough time there?
Yeah, so obviously leaving Walsall, knowing that I'd have to go back to League Two, I said to my agent, I want to go home, and I'm from just outside Aldershot, so it was a perfect deal for me at that time. Unfortunately, I had a really strange injury, basically my groins and my sort of pelvic region. I just literally couldn't move at all. Ended up having operations, injections. We missed sort of October all the way to the last game of the season, where the manager put me straight back in, and we actually had to win to stay up away at Rotherham, and they had to win to go up. So it was my first game in about 8 months, and I actually did all right, which looking back really helped me, because obviously the club went into some really bad financial state, and everyone in contract. So then contracts became sort of null and void. So we all basically got released. And I'm there sort of 24 years old, played one game in 8 months, and suddenly no contract at all. So yeah, it was just a very sticky time, I suppose, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, mate. But you did get a fresh start. Rochdale, June 2013, starting first game, you've been chucked straight into the first team. Great first win, 3-0 against Hartlepool. What was that like? Because, at Rochdale, you were given the captaincy, trust. That must have felt like a real sort of weight lift on your shoulder. I guess like new area, new people, new beginning, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. And that's something I was actually just about to sign for Luton, who was obviously a bit more local to me.
Yeah.
Bigger club. But I decided last minute to go up to Rochdale because Luton was still in the conference and I wanted to stay in the Football League. And yeah, we had a great team at Rochdale, great manager. And yeah, we absolutely blitzed that League Two first season. It was great to be captain. And yeah, just a really good time. First time living up there. And yeah, just loved every minute of it, really.
The captaincy role is, I've always felt, is a fantastic honour and a privilege for any leader to take a group of players, because the dressing room is so important, isn't it, to a football club? I know all the Wycombe boys really, really well, and when they got promoted, they felt that whilst yes, there was talent there, but it was literally the unity, the bond of that group. And when you've obviously got characters there, like obviously Bayer and stuff, but when you've got a leader like Joe, who just leads that group and there's other big characters, like what did you do? I mean, how did you feel like you was picked? Why was you appointed as a skipper, mate?
I think you probably have to ask Keith Hill that, but looking back, Keith got some lads in, with similar background to me, sort of lads that have shown good promise at an early age and then sort of gone off the ball for whatever reason. So we had a really good group, a really easy group to be captain of. And once we sort of start the season well, it was just game by game, you could just feel something special happening. And yeah, obviously to get a promotion, and then we went out to Vegas to celebrate. It was a really good first season.
After your second season at Rochdale, you rejected a new deal signing for Shrewsbury. What was all that about?
So I was there 3 years, obviously promotion, and then 2 top 10 finishes in League One. And then my final year at Rochdale, obviously you know what football's like. My agent was telling me that maybe there's a few clubs interested. There's some sort of bigger clubs in League One that were whispered. So I decided to wait out to the end of the season. And then big clubs turned out to be our sort of second, third, fourth choice targets. And then Shrewsbury came in, which I wasn't too excited about. So I told my agent, don't just basically get them sort of their best offer and see how it goes. And they ended up giving me a decent offer. So then I was married, I had one kid, and I thought it'd be sort of selfish to stay at Rochdale, and yeah, so I went down to Shrewsbury. Yeah, and looking back, it was probably the wrong decision in the sort of football terms, definitely.
Well, maybe it was, but a year in, you've terminated your contract. You agreed a new 2-year deal with Swindon. Really impressive 55 appearances for the Robins before making a move back up north to Crewe. How was your time at Swindon, and then why the move back up north?
Yes, Swindon. It was a very strange time for the club, as you can see in the last few months. There's a lot going on behind the scenes at that club. But the first year, especially, I went in with David Flickhoff, the manager, who made me captain again. We were sort of fighting against people straight away. So it was sort of us against them, which I actually quite liked at the time. Then Flickhoff moved on to Mansfield in sort of February, March time, when we were sort of, I think we were 5th or 6th in the league. And then the season just completely dwindled out. And then in the second year, it was a long season, to be fair, new manager. And then I didn't really play at all from sort of November time. So yeah, it was important for me at that time to move back up to Manchester, where my wife and kids were. and then Crewe was perfect move for me.
I see. So geographically, that was the main move because of your family. All right, and obviously Crewe was when we met, and we'll talk about that later in the pod. Mate, that's fantastic. Overall, looking back on your career, you must be fairly satisfied with what you've achieved.
Yeah, I think so. I think you always want more. That's always going to be, but I've got no regrets. So every decision that I made was down to me. I didn't sort of listen too much to outside noises where I got pressured into doing anything that I didn't want to do. So very, very happy with that, and pretty pleased.
And I think all of those decisions that you did make and all of those leadership skills that you've clearly demonstrated has now got you involved in a very, very affluent role at one of the best clubs in the country. You look at the academy setup, you look at the infrastructure, you look at what they're doing at the club. It's absolutely first class. So, mate, I think you're a perfect partnership, and I think that's the best way that we can end that first half of the pod. But we're going to move on to some quick questions. Are you ready?
I think so, mate.
Ollie, what would you have done if you wasn't a footballer?
Well, fun enough, my granddad's involved in the sort of building trade, and I've always been really interested in that. So it would have been something along them lines. Yeah.
Okay. You played for 8 clubs. Which one was your favourite?
This one, obviously.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, this one, and also my time at Rochdale, definitely.
Who do you support?
Arsenal.
Oh, dear.
Not great at the minute, but we'll be back one day.
No comment. Ollie, you play centre-back, so I have to ask, if you could partner up with any other centre-back in the world, who would it be?
Growing up, it would have been definitely John Terry. Fortunate to play for England at under 19 level, and we actually had the same agent at that time. And me, my dad, and we went for food with John Terry, and he bought me English shirt, pair of boots, and obviously when I was 18, I was absolutely buzzing. He was definitely a hero of mine growing up.
Yeah,
even though he played for your boys.
Chelsea, yeah, I know. I must be honest, I was introduced to John probably however many months ago, and he said, I'm going to give you a call. I thought, he won't, and then he did. And me being obviously a Chelsea fan, I thought, oh my God, I've gone completely into fangirl mode, and I thought I need to compose myself before I answer this call. But yeah, listen, that's a great answer, Ollie. Okay, so best player you've ever played with?
Growing up here, it would be obviously Gareth Bale or Adam Lallana. Adam's a special player. One of them too.
Yeah, Adam Webster, we interviewed on the pod recently. He said Adam is absolutely class.
He's a really special player. Left foot, right foot. Yeah, really good.
And the best player you've played against?
In terms of names, so when I was there before, we played Man United in sort of 2008, 2009. It was a strong team. Obviously, Rooney, right at his peak. Ryan Giggs.
Wow.
And then we played Ajax in a friendly. Suarez was up top. So, probably one of them too.
The best and favourite ground you've ever played at? It can be 2 different answers.
I really like the 2 Sheffield stadiums, Bramall Lane and Hillsborough, especially on like a Tuesday night. It's absolutely bouncing up there.
Is it?
So I'd choose one of them too.
Yeah, I've been to Hillsborough. I've never been to Bramall Lane, but I can tell you from an away end's point of view, the atmosphere was electric. It was a long time ago. No, great. I can imagine why you say that. Your favourite manager?
Definitely Keith Hill. Someone that had a really good relationship at the time, and even still now, someone that I trust. Definitely.
The proudest moment of your career?
It'd either be playing for England at young level or the promotion at Rochdale. Just promotion brings really happy times. Obviously, trip to Vegas and all that sort of stuff. It's a great couple of weeks after getting promoted, definitely.
And last but not least, what is the next big career achievement for you, Ollie? What is the next goal that you plan on trying to reach?
Obviously this role hopefully can open some new doors. Currently doing a master's in sport and directorship. So, definitely staying in football in some capacity, whether that's coaching or scouting or sport and directors, something along them lines. Just still really love football, love the game. So hopefully it can still go.
Mate, that's class. Let's come back and talk property.
Talk Sport and Property Podcast, sponsored by MPH Sports Property Academy. Download the app today from the App Store or Google Play by typing in MPH Sports, the trusted go-to app for sports people looking to buy or learn about property.
Ollie, welcome back, mate. So you and I actually met when I was asked by Perry to do a workshop, a crew. He's now at Cardiff now, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's doing really well.
Yeah.
Great lad, great player as well.
Yeah, I remember going out for dinner with him. He's got a lovely, big, crazy family around him as well. But he's such a lovely guy. But what I loved about him is that he was obviously a young captain of an experienced side, really. And he was the one that reached out to me and said, "Listen, mate, I'm seeing what you're doing on Instagram. Would you come in and have a chat with the boys?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So we went out for dinner before, and obviously I came in. I mean, it was good to meet so many players like yourself that day. Obviously, we stayed in touch and stuff. But did you enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been interested in the sort of property side of life, and especially the change room, that crew, likes of Perry and Charlie Kirk and these younger boys. I thought what you delivered was really, really good for them, especially in sort of open their eyes up to, and not to go up and spend £500-600 on trainers, but actually put your money to work.
So I guess you probably never experienced a workshop like that before, or had you at different clubs, or?
The only thing I can sort of think about was when I was here before as a young lad.
Yeah.
Looking back, there are probably dodgy guys coming in about properties in like Marbella and Cyprus and Dubai. I remember then the senior pros sort of looking with a sort of bit of apprehension. So yeah, that's the only sort of property things that I've ever seen.
I know so many people that ended up buying property abroad and just lost so much money from it. And you just think, if I could have gone back and mentored them, guided them, or at least that way, just challenged them on that decision, I think they would have saved a fortune. But let's talk about you. I mean, when did you first buy a property, Ollie? And is that a property that you've subsequently kept?
So I first bought my first flat in Southampton when I was 19. The way it worked then, obviously after your 2-year scholar, you get a pro, and they give you a flat to live in. But I remember speaking to Kelvin Davis, as we mentioned earlier. He said, take that out of the contract and then ask for more money and then go and buy a place yourself. So that's what I did, and the club were a little bit surprised at first, but it all worked out all right. And so I bought a 2-bed flat in Southampton City Centre.
And have you kept that?
I sold it about 3 or 4 years ago.
Did you need to sell it, or did you just feel like the time was right?
Yeah, so I didn't really need to, but obviously the flat really increased in value, and where we are in Manchester, we wanted to buy and sort of renovate a house. So to get the cash out of that, it was sort of a perfect timing, really, at that time.
Yeah. So Mrs. Lancashire saw some lovely fancy furniture and said, the best thing to do is probably to sell that. Let's release some money so I can really dress this house up.
Yeah, that sounds a bit more realistic.
Ollie, have you bought any more property since?
When I signed for Aldershot, obviously moving back home.
Yeah.
At that time, I thought, back home, let's just buy a base. So I bought like a 4-bed family house.
New build?
It wasn't brand new, but it was probably about 5 or 6 years old. It was on, the new build. Obviously I only ended up living in it for about 8 months. And then my brother moved into it and paid me the rent for 2 or 3 years. And then I rented it out for a little bit longer. And then I sold it as well about 3 or 4 years ago as well at the same time.
Okay. So tell me about your property assets as of today. Do you have, obviously you've got your place in Manchester where your family live. Do you have any other form of investments?
No, that's the only one I've got now. So like I said, when we bought this house and wanted to sort of extend it, renovate it, I ended up sort of spending more than I thought. And it's worked out all right. We've got a small mortgage and a nice house. So hopefully in the next few years, I can look to sort of make use of that equity and make it work for me.
Well, I'm going to be a bit more personal, if you don't mind. I mean, what sort of property did you buy, and when you say a low mortgage, what sort of equity would you say that you've got in your asset today?
So equity wise, probably got about 400,000.
Yeah, lovely.
So yeah, we've just got a 4-bed, similar to one that I had down south. But we obviously did some big works on it, double story extensions, etc., and pure, complete renovation. So as you know, that builders cost quite a bit of money these days. So no, it was definitely a big job, but it's one that we're really happy with. It's where our family are based. It's probably somewhere we can see living for quite a while, unless obviously things happen down here.
So has property investment ever interested you? Because it sounds like you've actually bought really well. You bought really young at 19 years of age, which I do so many workshops for under 23s. Not many do. Credit where credit's due there. You kept that for a number of years and obviously made quite a bit of money from that. You then came from going back up north, you came back down south and bought another one in Aldershot, which you've recently sold. You've now got this family home with the best part of £500,000 of equity sat in it. Have you not sat down with the boss and gone, look, listen, maybe we should pull a little bit of this money out and reinvest it in some other investments?
Yeah, obviously, Mrs., 3 kids, it's sort of hard to find the time to sort of have that conversation. I think it's something that we definitely will have. But yeah, the last 4 or 5 years have been really hectic sort of family life. So at the minute, we're just sort of living how we are, but I'm sure in the future, definitely we will. What I would say is, I don't really have any real education when I bought them flats before and the house. So when I was getting the sort of rent, and then when I sold the houses, no one really told me about the tax. So I ended up getting quite a large tax bill. So yeah, if I was to do it, then obviously people like yourself.
And I guess this is why education and learning is so important, isn't it? And this is the reason why these 20-25-minute workshops, we've just done one for Middlesbrough today. The feedback's been unbelievable, and just talking about the tax benefits of actually buying through a property company as opposed to buying in your own name, because as you say, you've been slammed with a massive tax bill, and these can all be avoided if you know.
Yeah, definitely.
You played for 8 different clubs. Moving around at times must have been a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, obviously Southampton to Walsall. I lived in Birmingham for 2 years there.
So what did you do? Did you rent, or did you stay with a mate? Or
yeah, so I actually rented in Birmingham city centre. Obviously, I was still young. It was quite a vibrant place to live for the first year, and then my missus moved up the second year, still renting. And then obviously moving to Aldershot where I bought, and then Rochdale where first 3 years I rented. And then even though I moved clubs to Shrewsbury, I stayed in the same area. It's only about an hour and 20 from Shrewsbury, so we stayed in where we are there. And that's when I bought family house. And since then, family have been based there. And when I went to Swindon, I was lucky enough that the club sorted me out a place there to live with about 3 or 4 lads, which was fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I know you said you haven't got any regrets in your playing career, which is great. You can look back and go, fantastic. I've got complete closure in where I went, what I did, etc. Do you have any regrets with your investments or property decision making, looking back as a mature 32-year-old professional now?
Yeah, probably. I'd probably still like to have the flat in Southampton, definitely. Obviously, it'd be a really nice investment to have. But then at the same time, I'm really happy with the sort of renovation that we did on our house up there, and that cash probably helped do that. So, yeah, and then I still think on the grand scheme of things at 32, I'm still pretty young to sort of go again, more educated and yeah, hopefully do it properly next time.
No, it sounds like maybe you and I need to get together then.
Definitely, sort it out.
Look, I know you're a family man. I follow you on social media. We've spoken quite a bit over the last few years. Does being a husband and a dad play a massive part in where you play and when you played full time? And how important is it to get settled from a residential point of view?
Yes, it's definitely massive. I think, as I mentioned before, when I went to Swindon, I ended up moving on, and keeping the kids and the missus up in in the Northwest, which I think in League One and League Two especially happens, quite a lot. People will be very surprised. There's a lot of footballers living away from their wife and kids, mainly because of the sort of 1 and 2 year contracts. It's very difficult to take your kid out of school and stuff like that. But yeah, obviously I think at the higher end, when you can have the 4 or 5 year contracts, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
I know you're at Southampton now, but when you were signing for a lower league club in comparison to Saints, would the club support you with, maybe sort of finding a place to rent, or maybe have that conversation with you thinking, are you planning on buying here in the area?
Looking back, no. I can't remember one club that's really had that conversation. I remember one time for Rochdale, so I didn't know Manchester or Northwest at all. It was literally a brief 2-minute conversation after I signed the contract of asking him really whereabouts I should live. So I just lived wherever he actually told me at that time. Obviously, at a club like this, it's completely different. There's player care team that look after all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think especially in League One and League Two, it's not something that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, obviously at Southampton, you have a fantastic head of education in Herden, who I know personally, and you've got your player liaison. Is it Emma? She's still there? Yeah, player liaison. And those have got such massive roles with a new player arriving at the club, and also their players' family like yours, wife and kids. But I find that obviously with clubs less fortunate not to be able to financially probably employ people to be in that position, they don't. So obviously with players like yourself that have moved from Aldershot to Rochdale, planning that move is so important. And looking at your new role at Southampton, what experience are you looking to bring to the club and also to the players around you on the pitch? And I guess the key question here is also, can property play a part in that?
Yeah, definitely. As I mentioned earlier about when I was their age, and senior pros helping me so much, Kelvin helping me with property, that it's definitely my job to help them. And there's definitely 2 or 3 that I've talked about you already. So yeah, that's definitely great to hear, because it is definitely a short career. It doesn't feel like yesterday that I was in their shoes. So it's definitely, the younger you start, the better it is, and hopefully the lads here can sort of, whether it's property or whether it's stock, shares, or any terms of any sort of investments, yeah, it would definitely help them come my age, definitely.
Well, looking back, I mean, you've worked with so many talented players. I mean, have you seen players that have experienced a taste of life-changing money just completely and utterly spend it, blow it, waste it quite quickly? Yeah,
definitely. There's I think football, it still has that sort of stigma of you have to keep up with the sort of next man, whether that's buying a big car or wash bags, whatever it is. I think it is changing a little bit now, but yeah, there still needs to be a lot of help, I think, to make these guys understand that, 1, it's a short career, and 2, try and make that money work for you, because it definitely soon runs out. And there's a lot of examples of footballers retiring and really struggling financially after football.
Yeah, well, mate, honestly, I think your role is absolutely on point. Listening to some of the answers, clearly you care. Clearly you've seen firsthand how you can mentor and change the next generation behind you. I think the Southampton are going to get the best from you, and I think you're going to get the best from the club. And I wish you every success. And it's only going to inspire you as a dad for your children. I mean, how old are your 3 now?
I've got a 7, 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Okay. Are they showing any signs in football ability yet?
Yeah, not too bad. 7-year-old's all right. 4-year-old, my little girl is probably the best. She's got unbelievable.
Love it.
So yeah, she's probably showing the most promise.
Love it. Well, listen, mate, I'm big into girls football with my daughter. I've been coaching her for the past it's our 4th season now. I mean, honestly, girls football is changing. Her into a girls football club ASAP and encourage it, because she's amazing. Your daughter will be amazing. Olly, I can't thank you enough for coming on TalkSport and Property, mate. It's always a pleasure. We do need to get together soon. I know Ian has kindly got in touch already to say, listen, we need to get you down to the club. So I know we're thrashing out some dates at the minute, so I'll hopefully come down and see you. But mate, thanks for all your support. You've always been very, very kind. And thanks again for coming on and sharing your experiences with us.
No problem, Lee. Really enjoyed it, mate.
Thanks, top man. Thank you, mate.
You've been listening to TalkSport and Property. Visit the App Store and download the MPH Sports app today, or keep up with us over on Instagram.